Welcome to Eerie Echoes. Tonight we'll dive into chilling true horror stories from the Appalachian Mountains. If you enjoy these dark tales, don't forget to subscribe. It helps more than you know. Now, let's begin. You learn to trust the register, a name, a date, a direction, the breadcrumbs that prove you exist out here. But what do you do with someone who moves through the Smokies without leaving a single mark? I've spent enough years in the backcountry to know the rhythms of a trail the way a bartender knows the sound of an empty glass. The Appalachian Trail near Fontana Dam has its own steady music. Boots on frozen duff, wind pooling in hollows, a hawk's dry cry looping the ridge. By March, the mornings make the ground glassy and loud, every step a brittle crunch. I've always liked that honesty. Nothing in the woods pretends. It either is or it isn't. Trail registers don't pretend either. They're the simplest ledger you'll ever meet. A weatherproof box, a notebook, a blunt pencil. You write your name, your date, your plan. It's safety. It's courtesy. It's proof. And if you hike solo the way I do, flipping those pages and seeing other scrawled names reassures you that you're not a ghost. Just another human thread running through these trees. That week, I'd looped a few side trails out of Fontana before pushing northbound on the AT. Birds talked in quick paragraphs. Squirrels skittered like nervous thoughts. I reached the Shuckstack shelter, signed in and lay back watching the sky bruise toward evening. Simple, perfect, ordinary. That's when the trail decided to carve an exception. The next day, near a fork, she was there, 19, maybe 20. Hoodie up despite the sun. Jeans wet at the cuffs. No pack, no bottle, no poles. Nothing but hands in a front pocket and one foot braced against the other like she had to pin herself to the earth. You doing okay? I asked, automatic as a safety check. Most hikers trade a line or two. It breaks the loneliness cleanly. She lifted her head. Calm. The wrong kind of calm. The kind that doesn't reflect light. I'm just walking to find someone, she said. Soft voice like she'd already explained it to 5 people who didn't get it. You need water? Food? Out there, that's not small talk, it's triage. She gave one small shake. I'm fine, trail etiquette has its border fences. You offer help? You don't interrogate. Everyone out here is stitching their own private map. So I nodded, adjusted my shoulder strap, said safe hiking, and stepped past. For the rest of the day I kept expecting evidence of her. A silhouette drifting between trees. A name on the next register page. But at every stop the paper stayed stubborn. No teenage girl, no hoodie girl, no one looking for someone. Night found me at a ridge above a cove. The wind went high and lonely. The smell of damp leaves tugged old memories into shape. I kept glancing down trail, waiting for a crunch, a flicker, a human mistake that said I wasn't imagining her. Nothing came except the fatigue that wraps your bones like cloth. By day 3, she lived in my head. I've met day trippers in sandals and through hikers with 1,000-yard stares, but never anyone so empty-handed. It bothered me more than it should have. When I got back to the ranger station, I offered it casually, like a weather note. Saw a young woman near Fontana, I said. Hoodie, no gear. Said she was looking for someone. Anybody else report her? The ranger was a sun-cured man in his 50s, who had the face of a person who's heard every version of the truth. How young? College age. Maybe younger. Dark hair, I said. He leaned back, arms folded across a chest that had lifted more coolers than I ever will. No one like that signed in. A pause. And funny you bring it up. You're not the first person to mention a girl like that. Hoodie, no pack, always near Fontana. But when we check, no register, no matches, nothing. He tried to smile it away. Coincidence. Bad memory. Hiker Twitter doing what it does, only his voice didn't believe his words. Here's what people don't tell you. Sometimes the thing that haunts isn't a scream or a chase or a strange shadow in your tent light. Sometimes it's a blank box on a page where a name should live. For weeks after I replayed her, maybe she'd tucked a soft bottle under that hoodie. Maybe her partner had her gear and she'd stepped out to breathe. But one truth sat like a rock in the stream. She hadn't signed. Out here, that's like walking without leaving footprints. I started signing differently after that. Full name, date, time, direction, notes, blue jacket, northbound. Not out of vanity, out of stubbornness. A list of I was here's against everything in the woods that doesn't need ink to be real, because maybe she didn't need it. Maybe she was a thread pulled through the Smokies every few years to see who would notice the seam. The next time I hit Fontana, the cold had softened, but the memory hadn't. I found myself looking for her where the trail splits, in the half-light where you miss reed bark for a shoulder and shadow for hair. If you've hiked long enough, you know the difference between nerves and warning. This wasn't fear. It was an itch around the edges of a map. I stopped at the same register I'd used last time, flipped pages that smelled like damp wood and pencil shavings. Recent names: a couple from Ohio, a through hiker called Tapeworm, there's always one, an arrow sketched toward Klingman's. It felt like walking into a room where a conversation had just ended. I wrote my line and shut the lid carefully. The way you close a door you hope will stay closed. People turn stories into shapes that fit. Some hikers swear she's flesh and blood, a runaway, a local, a prank, a misunderstanding. Others lean the other way. You heard about the Fontana girl? They ask, half teasing, half not. I don't like either version. The truth that keeps me company is simpler and colder. The woods don't owe you proof. They owed it to me even less when I wanted it most. I still picture her at that fork, one foot pinning the other, hands in a pocket like that fabric could anchor her here, eyes that didn't catch light. And I hear the softness of her voice when she said she was looking for someone, like the name was on her tongue and she chose not to spend it. Maybe she found them. Maybe she never did. Maybe finding isn't the point of the walk. I'm a wildlife biologist. I could give you a dozen explanations that sit neatly in daylight. But when I shoulder my pack and feel the straps crease the same grooves in my jacket, none of the tidy answers matter. I still scan the trees. I still sign slow in the register. I still check the graphite, make sure the line is dark enough to convince a stranger I was real. If you ever hike near Fontana and a young woman in a hoodie asks very softly if you've seen someone, you'll be tempted to inventory her. Water, food, plan, name. Check, 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 check. Resist the urge to press. Offer what you can. Let the moment be what it is. And if you flip open the register and she isn't there, well, some miles are meant to be measured in something other than ink. If that one made the hairs rise, the next story trades superstition for something colder. A smiling stranger who already knows your real name. If you're into true grounded trail horror, tap subscribe so you don't miss it. Then come with me to a road crossing outside Damascus. Trail magic is supposed to taste like kindness, a cold drink, a bag of chips, a reminder you're not alone. It tastes different when the stranger at the cooler greets you by a name you never gave. By April, I'd been walking northbound long enough for my body to forget it had other jobs. Coffee squeeze bottle, oatmeal, boots, tracker, walk, breathe, repeat. The temperature had stopped playing games. Mornings crisp, afternoons sweaty enough to salt your pack straps. I'd camped the night before at a quiet creek, far enough off a crowded shelter to dodge midnight yodeling and bad country music. I'm not antisocial, just a believer in sleep. A few miles later, the sound of traffic softened in like a memory and I knew the trail was bending toward a crossing. Road means coolers sometimes, and if the day smiles, a folding table and strangers with generosity. From a distance, I saw the whole picture. Trunk popped, card table, bananas, family-sized chips, gallon jugs, a cooler bleeding condensation. One man leaned against his bumper. Ball cap low, sunglasses, smile turned up just enough to say, "See, I'm safe. I'm here for you." Checklist. Hikers learn it whether they admit it or not. One man, yes. Hands visible? Yes. Table placed so I don't have to pass within reach? Yes. Second car? No weird vibes. TBD, trail magic, he called, host cheery. Come grab a snack. I stepped into the gravel. Appreciate it, I said, and I meant it. You walk long enough and you forget how good cold can be. Name's Rob, he said, and then pivoted like we were already acquaintances. Leah, right? You look like you could use a drink. The name landed like grit in a well-oiled bearing. Not my trail name. Lark, bold Sharpie on my bottle. My real name, the one I'd left at Springer Mountain like an old skin. I kept my face easy, tapped the letters with a fingernail. Trail name's Lark, I said. He didn't flinch. Leah suits you better. He opened the cooler and produced an orange Gatorade, sealed, the plastic dimpling with glassy sweat. He offered it like a prom corsage. Refusing would have set the scene on fire. I took the bottle. Thanks, he slid a bag of chips toward me. How was your spot by the creek? He asked conversationally. Flat enough for real sleep? The Gatorade jumped in my hand. That site wasn't a shelter. It wasn't in comments. I hadn't posted, hadn't bragged at a fire ring. The only place it existed was on the trail, and on the GPS tracker clipped to my shoulder strap. You hike around here a lot? I kept it light. Know the good stealth spots? I keep an eye on hikers, he said, and I caught the twitch under the smile. Girls especially. It's not always safe. Saw you ping last night, thought, that's a good spot. Ping. One word can pry your ribs open. My tracker's default had gone public the day I set it up with my mom on FaceTime. Followers. Links. A breadcrumb trail laid out like a welcome mat I didn't know I'd put down. You a former through? I asked. I shuttle, he said smoothly. Help folks resupply. Save for when someone local drives. I can run you into Damascus. Or slack pack you. Carry your bag, meet you down trail. Plenty of women take me up on it. Gatorade hissed when I cracked it. I took a swallow for time more than thirst. I'm good today, I said. Got my rhythm. He smiled like I'd agreed to something anyway. At the far edge of the lot, I turned my back and dug the tracker out with clumsy thumbs. Public share. On followers. 38. My stomach did a clean sailor's knot. I toggled to private. Changed the username. Revoked all links. Restarted for ceremony. When I looked up, he was watching from behind mirrored lenses. He didn't wave. He didn't call goodbye. He looked like a man who'd had a door shut in his face without warning. Thanks for the magic, I said, bright as foil. The next hours I didn't run. Running invites chase. I just moved with purpose, pacing my breath to my poles, plant, step, plant, step. Every engine on a distant road sounded like a decision. At a side trail to water, I lingered near an older couple. You two headed for the next shelter? I asked. They were. I let them become a soft-bellied buffer between me and whatever watched. Late afternoon, the trail tipped to another road. Gravel to asphalt. I looked left. The sedan waited like it had been printed there. Same cap. Same smile that now had edges. Hey, Leah, he called. No pretense this time. Change your mind about that ride? Heat prickled the back of my neck. There's a group right behind me, I said, loud enough for the trees to hear. We're all going to the same shelter. His smile flattened. You girls don't need to be stubborn, he said. You're moving about 2.2 an hour. Puts you at Taylor Valley at 6. I can meet you there with pizza. Or slack pack you. Make it easier, he knew my pace. He'd studied my nights. He'd made a map of me when I left my front door unlocked. Good to know, I said, and let the woods take me back. At the shelter, my hands shook while I cooked rice and tuna. The older couple gave me the hello of people who had seen the same scene and chosen quiet. A car idled past bare minutes and sat just out of sight, engine a wet animal breathing through its mouth before it eased away. No one laughed. No one suggested ghosts. We all chewed and watched the dark push in. In the register I wrote only Lark 412, pushing through to Damascus. I didn't want him stored there in graphite. Giving something your ink is giving it a kind of permanence. At the Damascus outfitter, I bought blister tape and then asked the clerk if anyone had complained about GPS apps oversharing. She didn't blink. Sometimes, she said. Defaults are public. Women forget to toggle. She wrote a non-emergency number on the back of a receipt and slid it across. Call this, and tell your people. Word travels faster than any one creep. I did both. The ranger took my details. Time, place, car cap, lines he'd sung. I told other women at the hostel and watched their faces change from casual to calculating. 2 days later, I passed another cooler at another crossing. Took a Coke, wiped the rim. Sat on a log. A pickup rolled slow, then faster. Dust hung in prayer. Here's what I learned, and I'm giving it to you the way someone should have handed it to me. Your safety settings are doors. Assume they default open. Lock them with intention. If a stranger uses your real name when you didn't give it, that is not hospitality. That is a key in your pocket you didn't know was copied. The conversation ends there. I didn't quit on people. I tightened my borders. My tracker stays private. My face doesn't live on my profile. I still accept kindness at tables and gravel pull-offs, but my checklist is in permanent marker now. Table placement, hands, exit routes. Are there other hikers in view? And if someone offers to make it easier, I ask whether he's offering me rest or offering himself control. I hope Rob has forgotten me. More likely, he kept my 2.2 pace in a mental notebook and waited for the next breadcrumb trail. Maybe he's printing pizzas onto strangers' nights right now. So listen, your data is part of your body in 2025. You don't hand your pulse to a stranger. Don't hand your pings to one either. And if you're the kind of person who sets out coolers and water jugs because you believe in tired feet and small mercies, keep doing it. Just don't be offended when some of us treat you like a maybe. We don't know which table is kindness and which is bait until we're already close enough to smell the ice. When I cross roads now, I look both ways for more than cars. I check the trees for lenses. I write my name in the register like it's a spell. Lark 412, date, time, northbound, enough detail to prove I was here. Not enough to let someone else walk my steps for me later. If you hear your real name called across gravel and you didn't give it, it's not a greeting. It's a line being tested. Step back into the trees and let the woods erase your footprints for a while. If that one tightened your shoulders, the next is worse because you don't even need a man to watch you, when a hidden phone can do it for hours. Take a breath. Hit subscribe if you want more true trail horror without filler, and let's head to the Grayson Highlands. You think the scariest thing in the woods is what you hear in the dark. But sometimes it's what you find under the leaves, the quiet eye that's already been watching you. Grayson Highlands has a way of tricking you into thinking it's friendlier than it is. Wide balds, wild ponies, fog rolling soft as wool. It feels less like wilderness and more like some enchanted meadow borrowed from a postcard. That's why we picked it. Kara, Matt, and me. 3 friends with just enough backpacking under our belts to feel like we'd earned a break. We wanted laughter, photos, cheap wine under stars. Nothing more complicated than that. Day 1 gave us exactly what we asked for. Sun that painted the sky impossible blue. Kara dragging us into every patch of wildflowers for another photo op. Matt swearing he was going to smuggle a pony in his trunk. And me, breathing easier than I had in months. By late afternoon, we found a spot off trail, flat near water, enough of a view to remind us why we'd come. Dinner was ramen and wine from a plastic bottle. We laughed until the fire collapsed into red threads. Around 10 p.m., we zipped into our tents. Wind pushed across the ridge. I drifted toward sleep until footsteps. Not animal scatter, not a deer's thump. Deliberate. 2, 3, pause. Then again. Too close to the ring of our fire pit. Too careful to be chance. Did you hear that? I whispered. Probably a deer, Matt muttered, already half asleep. But Kara was awake. That didn't sound like an animal. The steps stopped. Then silence so heavy my ears rang. Minutes stretched. Nothing followed. Eventually, we all forced ourselves down into shallow sleep. By morning, the memory felt almost silly, just nerves, just woods. We joked about our ghost hiker as we packed. The second night didn't let us off so easy. We camped deeper in the trees this time, away from the fields. Dinner, fire, more laughter. But when the hour curved back toward 10, the footsteps returned. Again deliberate. Again circling close. This time, all 3 of us froze at the same sound. Hello? Kara called, her voice thin with hope. Is someone out there? No answer. Just the brittle crack of a branch, then silence. Matt swore under his breath and grabbed his flashlight. I'm checking. We hissed at him not to. He went anyway, light sweeping between the trees. For a long minute, only the beam moved. Then he crouched. Guys, come here. We hurried over. Under a pile of leaves half hidden in the dirt lay a phone. Screen glowing faintly. Recording timer crawling past 2 hours. Matt brushed the leaves off. Someone planted this. He stopped the recording and swiped through the gallery. Clip after clip of hikers on the trail. Families, couples, solos. Each one filmed for a few seconds, then cut. Dozens of strangers caught without consent, and then us. Laughing, pointing at ponies. Our first day shot from the side of the trail. Someone had crouched in the trees, lens steady while we walked by. Kara's face went bloodless. That was yesterday. My stomach turned. We weren't just hearing someone, we were being documented, watched, collected. We carried the phone back, sat around the fire in silence. The woods didn't feel like woods anymore. Every shadow leaned too close. Every rustle was breath. We didn't drink the wine. We didn't joke. We sat in a circle facing out, knives and trekking poles within reach. Around 3 a.m., light cut through the trees. Not a headlamp bouncing with steps. Low, steady, sweeping side to side, searching. We killed our fire, killed our lamps, held our breath while the beam slid across the ridge and faded. It didn't return. We didn't sleep. At dawn, we packed faster than ever in our lives. No chatter, no breakfast, just get out. We marched straight into town, nerves tight as wire. At the ranger station, Matt dropped the phone on the desk. We found this. The officer on duty sighed like he'd seen too much. He bagged it, took our story, promised to send it to tech. Might be tough without consent, he muttered. Whose consent? I snapped. My voice startled even me, he shrugged. People film on trails. Usually harmless. We'll check. It didn't feel harmless. Not when someone hid it under leaves. Lens pointed at where hikers passed, left it running for hours. Weeks passed and we never heard back. Maybe the phone was locked. Maybe it disappeared into some evidence drawer. But the thought clung like sweat. Our faces, our voices may be sitting in some folder on a hard drive marked trail. Now, when I hike, every tree feels like it might hide a lens. Every rustle behind me feels like an observer adjusting position. Freedom has teeth when you realize someone's been collecting you as footage. And here's the part that keeps me awake. If Matt hadn't noticed the glint under those leaves, we never would have known. We'd still be out there laughing, waving at ponies, oblivious. Our trust in the trail intact while someone, somewhere, played back our smiles like trophies. If you thought a hidden phone was bad, imagine hearing footsteps circle your tent, followed by a whisper that cuts straight through the nylon. Tap subscribe if you're still with me, and let's head to Mac's Patch where one lie was the only thing keeping me safe. Lying can save your life, especially when a stranger circles your tent at night whispering through the mesh, "You lied." Mac's Patch is the kind of place hikers romanticize. A bald scraped clean by time, wide open skies stacked with stars, mountains folding in blue layers. Families picnic there, couples take selfies. I'd camped there before without issue. That spring, after a long stretch of gear demos in town, I wanted nothing more than one quiet night under the open sky. I hiked up light, tent, stove, basics. Halfway up, a man with a camera slung across his chest stood off trail. Clean shoes, spotless shirt. He looked like someone who wanted to appear casual but had rehearsed the pose. "Hey there," he said. "You hiking alone?" Reflex. "My boyfriend's right behind me." Flat as weather. He smiled. "Camping up top?" "Quick sunset, early morning, long drive," I muttered and kept moving. At the Bald, I pitched my tent near the tree line. My setup is ritual now. Stakes tight, fly taut, keys by the door for panic button reach. Bear spray on one side, whistle clipped where my hand falls in the dark. If survival is faith, this is my prayer. The man drifted around with his camera. Never directly at me, but often enough that the lens felt like a lighthouse beam sweeping the grass. He passed close once. "Good night for stars," he said. "Looks that way." "You said your boyfriend was right behind," he added. Casual as a fact check. "Stopped for photos," I said, eyes fixed on the horizon. He nodded, satisfied. Sunset bled gold across the Bald. People clapped. One by one, headlamps trickled down to the lot. By 10, only a few tents glowed. I zipped mine tight. Trekked a pole into the zipper flap, a tripwire. Sleep came thin, light broken. Then footsteps, deliberate arcs around my tent. Pausing at the head, the foot, the vestibule. Nylon bowed inward as a finger brushed the fly. Then a tap at the zipper pull. And a whisper close enough to smell the night on his breath. "You lied." Not mocking. Not angry. Just certain. Like a bill collector naming a debt. My thumb pressed hard on the panic button of my keys. I didn't hit it. Sometimes silence is stronger than noise. The steps lingered, widened, circled again, then drifted into the wind. Dawn revealed a ring of footprints dark in the dew. deeper than my own, encircling, overlapping at the zipper. I packed and left without a word. Down by the tree line, another camper zipped her tent. I almost asked if she'd heard anything. Instead, I carried it out alone. At the car, I locked doors before sitting. Typed a report into my phone. Sent it when bars appeared. Mail, camera, circling tents. Whisper. Logged, the dispatcher said. Nothing more. I didn't quit solo hiking. But no more balds. No more tents without neighbors. And when someone asks if I'm alone, I'll lie again. Without hesitation. That wasn't the only time the mountains tested me. Years earlier, when I was 22 and stupid with freedom, I hiked the Virginia spine after dropping out of school. One ridge, one night. I expected nothing but silence. Instead, the sky gave me watchers. It started as 3 soft glows across the gap. Not headlamps, not flames. Warmer, steadier. They drifted like they'd been plotted on a graph. Lanterns, I told myself. Then drones. But they made no sound. Moved against the wind. Formations too neat for chance, I waved, half joking. One glow rose, the other shifted with it. My skin tightened. Curiosity dragged me down a spur trail for a closer look. From the knob, I counted 4 lights now, hanging in a shallow arc. Geometry against sky. Anyone out there? I called. The wind answered. Nothing else. One light slid toward me, crossing the gap straight as a ruler. My body chose for me. I ran. Crashed back to camp. Killed my headlamp, sat with whistle clamped in fist. Through the vestibule crack. Haze glowed faintly across the ground. Warmth brushed my face once, like leaning too close to a screen. Then slowly the night reclaimed itself. At dawn the ridge was empty. Just my tracks and a scuffed spot where I'd turned too hard. Down at the trailhead, a man in a camo hat sipped coffee. When I mentioned the lights, he squinted at the ridge. They've been there a long time, he said. My granddad called them watchers. I laugh about it now. Call them UFOs, campfire stories. Pretend humor is a shield. But some nights when the wind says move, I listen. Because maybe the scariest part isn't the lights or the whisper or the ring of footprints. Maybe it's realizing the mountains don't care what you believe. They'll write their own story, and you'll either fit inside it or not. If strangers circling tents and lights that ignore the wind didn't shake you, remember this. The real predators don't always wait in the forest. Sometimes they knock on your front door with a smile and a for sale sign. Click now for our Facebook Marketplace horror stories, because some nightmares come gift wrapped. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next scare.